Florida is going to Utah. Thursday night game. The Once Upon a Saturday tour is kicking off on a Thursday night. Wonderful, wonderful artwork for us this year. And I will be giving appropriate attribution in due time. But this is a Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Mountain Time game. And I've never been able to specify Mountain Time because I don't think we've attended a game in the Mountain Time zone. But we are tonight. You know what's beautiful, just gorgeous about this matchup? Both of these teams think a physical game favors them. And you know who wins in that scenario? Maybe Florida, maybe Utah, but we win. You and I win. Look at helmets flying all over the place. It's going to be beautiful. Can't wait to see what kind of uniforms Utah rolls out in. So, as you know, if you've been following college football, if you've been following this game, especially if you guys are trying to bet it, you know that Cam Rising's status is very much up in the air. Now, full disclosure, he's in the other room producing the show tonight, but in a much more real sense, he's very much in doubt as to whether he's going to start at quarterback for Utah Thursday night. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little risk here. I don't have inside information. It's impossible because it's a Kyle Whittingham program, so no one has inside information. I'm going to say that he's not playing, and I'm going to operate off that assumption. And Brant Kuth, the big-time tight end, also not playing in this game, and so Bryson Barnes is the name. That's the quarterback that we're likely looking at, starting for Utah. Limited trust passing. So I look at this game, and I think it's kind of like a package game for Utah. Anytime you put in a quarterback that has limited experience, it's not that you're going to tell him, don't you dare throw this ball, but you're going to significantly shave down your playbook. Now, it's a little bit different because Utah has known this is a possibility for a while, so they've worked through the whole summer and fall camp knowing that it could be an issue. He could have to start for us. So it's a little bit different than losing your starter in week 6. And then your backup, or in this case, your third-string guys in week 7. I get that. Still think it's very much a package game, and that is because they got a great offensive line. Utah thinks that they can pound the ball. Both these teams do. Both these teams think they can pound the ball. Kyle Whittingham, he could make an argument he's got his best defense out there that he's ever had. And so what is that? Well, it's a fly trap special, as we like to call it. It's the kind of game that you let come to you. You know the old adage, more games are lost than they are won in week 1 in college football? Well, they say that because it's true. And so you don't have to be the cheetah in week 1. We use as many nature metaphors as possible on this show. You can be the fly trap. You can just let Florida come to you, and then once they do, you got to chomp them up. Got to chomp them up. So, can they afford to play that style? Well, I don't think they have many options. So that's the style I would expect from Utah. And here's what's fun about that. We get to find out which Graham Mertz theory is correct when it comes to Florida offensively this year. That win total there's 5.5 for a reason. People don't believe in him. I've told you a few times. I'll tell you one more time, and then this story will be expired because the season will have started. Napier told us at SEC Media Days, said, man, yeah, I evaluated all those quarterbacks. We took him, but it was the feedback we got from the Wisconsin staff. The fact that they felt they misused him, they misdeveloped him, they could have done so much more with him, that's what made us think there may be a little more tread on these tires than anyone has seen from his time at Wisconsin. Okay, great. And I know a lot of my Florida buddies are really excited, and they expect when the curtain goes up on the 2023 version of Florida Thursday night, they're going to shock the world and they're going to make an emphatic statement. Great. There are other people who think they'll crash and burn horrifically. Great. Well, it wouldn't be great. Someone's going to be right. So my point there with Graham Mertz is I doubt we see an extreme. I don't think he'll be terrible. I don't think he'll be at the forefront of Heisman conversations, although if you'll remember, and this just jogged in my memory, Wisconsin with Mertz opened, I think, against Illinois. Jesse, when was that? It was like a standalone game, and they opened against him, and Mertz was just on fire. And there was a time, kids, believe it or not, it's worth a good old-fashioned Google, there was a time where Graham Mertz's name was thrown around in week 1 Heisman talk, which is oxymoronic. It shouldn't even be a thing that exists, but it did exist. And there was once upon a probably like a Thursday or Friday, not quite a Saturday. So what's the reality there? And does this turn into a game where he has to make several plays through the air? You know, Florida's got some young guys that they think in time will emerge at wide receiver, and that could be the case for a lot of the team. Yards after catch is an area where, they think that they could do some business, but also it's an area Thursday where it would concern me if that's what I have to rely on, because I trust Utah's defense. I trust it big time. So it's a wild potential emotional swing. That's always the case in week one. But I want you to think about something just for a second. Everyone's got their thought about Florida. Everyone thinks they'll either be terrible or, in most cases, if you're a Florida fan, you think they'll be better than anticipated, could win 7, could win 8. Let's say they go out there and they pull the upset. Well, that's a big deal because it doesn't matter who started at quarterback for Utah. If you get that win and then you come home and all of a sudden you can tell the disaster scenario is not going to happen, well, then all of a sudden you're really, really encouraged and you're buoyed and all that sort of thing. What if Florida goes out there and they face a backup quarterback and they lose anyway? Think about that little A-B scenario and think about how different things feel. Think about the talk around that guy, Billy Napier. This is what it comes down to in this sport. They're so lucky in baseball. They play 162 games. You lose 7 in a row and still win the World Series. In college football, man, the trajectory of a ball off a kicker's foot late in a game could be the difference in you being called the fastest riser in your profession versus you being tossed on the scrap heap. So what do we think about this? Well, if you've watched our show for a while, not only do I make a pick on it, I like to pick against the number 2, but we have our own internal model. Here it is right here. Except when the model's talking about Texas, you should generally trust the model. And we generate our own internal number here. So Vegas is Utah minus 6.5 on this game. I have to tell you what we did with our model is we removed Cam Rising. So I do not have Rising starting baked into this number. We have the game right at a pick. Now, we were already slightly going to lean Florida even if Rising was starting. Not by much, but we were going to slightly lean Florida plus the points. But as of now, if it's the case that he's not starting, I'm going to take Florida to cover. I am going to very, very slightly lean Florida to win the game, which could swing with the quarterback situation. I think it'll be really competitive. I think it'll be really low scoring. That total, 44.5, that's like an old school NFC East matchup. And Utah, 6-0 straight up, 5-1 against the spread at home last season. I cannot stand picking games for Utah because I'm never right, because most of the time they're at their best when they're doubted. And so I never feel like I can do anything right with that program. So here's what I can do. I can go out there. I can give the program as much publicity as this show can possibly give it. We're going to do our Thursday show from Rice-Eccles Stadium. And it's going to air at 3 Eastern, 1 Mountain Time. Yeah, that's going to happen. Going to be hot out there. It's going to actually be warmer there than it is in Nashville. I don't know how in the world that happens. But looking very much forward to this. I think Billy Napier in Florida, somehow, some way, crawling over broken glass, find a way to get this done. And if they do, hey, maybe they're off to the races. If they don't, very uncomfortable conversations to come Friday. In a related note, just piggybacking off that game, I do have a quick bit of information for you. The Pate State store is open. PateStateMaterial.com is open. We are going to be just shooting new items into that store quite frequently. A couple of them showed up today. In fact, Director Colin, about 5 minutes before the show, was able to upload them. Since we're headed to Utah, one of the Pate State My State shirt series items is now a Utah shirt. So we're going to put that up there, PateStateMaterial.com. You can purchase it at your leisure. But also, the Once Upon a Saturday tour, I think, is beautiful as a name. It's beautiful as a design on a shirt. It is our best-selling shirt thus far in the store. And we are going to specifically, 1 week only, we are going to make trip-specific Once Upon a Saturday tour shirts. And so there you see it right there on your right, actually, or on, it looks like my right. Rice-Eccles Stadium, August 31st, Salt Lake City, Utah. Kind of like a concert tour. The Once Upon a Saturday tour headed to Salt Lake, and we are, at least for 1 week, commemorating it there in the Pate State store. I don't want to say collector's item. I'm just saying that's not available after this weekend. So plan your life and your finances accordingly.